Have you ever felt like the conversation around women today has become sterile? Like we're caught in a cultural loop where one side worships and the other side resents, and no one is actually telling the truth? Society paints women as either divine angels or dangerous deceivers. But what if both images are illusions? And what if one of the most provocative minds in history saw through all of it, not with hatred, but with clarity? Friedrich Nietzsche didn't write to please. He wrote to provoke, to tear away the masks we wear. And when he looked at women, not the fantasy, but the real, breathing, strategic human beings behind the myths, he said things that still make people uncomfortable. Not because they're cruel, but because they're honest. This isn't a hit piece. It's not another tired rant about men versus women. It's a journey into one of the most uncomfortable, yet liberating truths, that what we call love, gender, and morality is often just power, dressed in softer language. Nietzsche didn't romanticize women, but he didn't hate them either. He respected them as players in the game of life, sharp, tactical, often underestimated, and in doing so, he said something few dare to admit, that most men don't love women, they love an idea of them, and most women don't submit to men, they shape them, silently, strategically, from within. Let's break it down. The illusion of love. Nietzsche believed that love is rarely what it claims to be. To him, most men don't fall in love with a woman. They fall in love with an image, a projection, an ideal that flatters them, comforts them, and shields them from truth. The woman becomes a symbol of purity, of emotional redemption, of beauty untainted by the messiness of reality. But that symbol isn't real. Men create it because they need it, not because women demand it, but because the raw truth of feminine complexity feels too chaotic, too uncontainable. So they reduce it. They make it manageable, digestible. Nietzsche saw this as a kind of cowardice, a refusal to see women as they are, real, unpredictable, instinctive, strategic. Not worse than men, not better, just real. And because men fear the chaos of that reality, they cover it with a fantasy. They call it love, but it's really denial. And when the fantasy collapses, when the woman stops playing the role, when she steps out of the symbol, men feel betrayed. Not because she lied, but because they lied to themselves. Power in disguise. Nietzsche didn't believe women were powerless. In fact, he thought the opposite. He believed women developed a unique form of strength, not through brute force, but through influence, emotional precision, social strategy. In a world where they were denied open access to politics, money, or status, Nietzsche believed women turned their intelligence inward. They mastered subtlety. They learned how to guide without demanding, how to secure without begging, how to influence without ever seeming to. While men built castles and armies, women shaped the kings. Nietzsche admired this, not because it was gentle, but because it was effective. He saw it as evolutionary brilliance, power through adaptation, invisibility as advantage. In his eyes, women didn't need to shout. They whispered, and the world shifted around them. The theater of morality. One of Nietzsche's most radical ideas was this: morality is not truth, it's a tool. And when it came to women, he saw morality not as a philosophical ideal, but as a form of survival. He believed women, denied physical dominance, learned to moralize weakness, to turn traits like submission, patience, and sacrifice into virtues, not because they were true, but because they were useful. By doing so, they flipped the script. What once disempowered them became their shield, their strategy, a soft kind of control that society not only accepted, but celebrated. Nietzsche didn't see this as deception. He saw it as genius. It was a quiet revolution, not in the streets, but in the home, the heart, the soul. A transformation of the battlefield from the physical to the emotional, from the public to the private. It wasn't a fair fight, but it was an effective one. And he warned, never confuse softness with surrender. Sometimes the softest hand holds the sharpest blade. The dance of perception. To Nietzsche, women understood something most men did not, that people don't fall in love with truth, they fall in love with perception, and perception can be crafted. He didn't accuse women of being fake. He saw their command of appearance as an art, a necessity, a skill honed by generations of adaptation. In his world, to be seen was to survive. So women learned early that how they appeared mattered more than who they were. And instead of fighting that, Nietzsche believed, they mastered it. Beauty, grace, social finesse. These weren't superficial. They were tools, symbols, weapons in the battle of influence. To Nietzsche, this wasn't vanity. It was strategy, a deep, intuitive understanding that in a world obsessed with surfaces, controlling the surface means controlling the outcome. And while men often mistook this for fragility, Nietzsche saw it as insight, not manipulative, not malicious, just necessary. The hidden war of love. Nietzsche didn't see love as a peaceful joining. He saw it as a disguised conflict. Two instincts, two drives, colliding under the illusion of unity. Men, he thought, love through fantasy. Women through necessity. Men dream of beauty, purity, and emotional salvation. Women seek strength, direction, protection, not in a needy way, but in a strategic way. Neither is wrong, but both are using love to get something. Nietzsche's critique wasn't moral, it was psychological. He believed most relationships are battles for dominance, not openly, but symbolically, through charm, through silence, through withdrawal, through approval. He believed love becomes the stage where power plays out most elegantly and most dishonestly, because we call it connection, but it's often conquest. He didn't blame women. He didn't blame men. He blamed the myth that love is pure, equal, and innocent. It's not. It's power in disguise. The rise of the independent woman. Nietzsche lived in a world where women were seen as fragile, dependent, and bound to domestic life. But even then, he sensed something deeper. He saw the emergence of a new kind of woman, one who didn't need approval, one who didn't wait to be chosen, one who didn't beg for protection, and he wasn't surprised. He was disturbed, not because he believed women were incapable, but because he feared most men wouldn't adapt. The average man, Nietzsche believed, was raised to feel needed, powerful by default. But when a woman no longer requires him for money, safety, or status, what's left? For many, the answer is resentment. Nietzsche predicted that the rise of independent women wouldn't bring peace, it would bring conflict. Because men would struggle to redefine themselves in a world where they're no longer gatekeepers. And women, freed from the need to please, would become direct, unapologetic, even ruthless. He didn't say this as judgment. He said it as warning. The future of gender is not harmony, it's disruption. Beyond the illusion. Nietzsche wasn't interested in flattery. He was interested in truth. He stripped away the illusions of love, morality, and gender, not to insult, but to free. He believed that behind every romantic fantasy was a power play, that behind every moral claim was a survival instinct, and that the only way forward was through brutal, unblinking honesty. But he didn't stop there. He also believed in transformation. He believed that a higher relationship was possible, one built not on control or fantasy, but on shared awareness, where the man doesn't need to dominate and the woman doesn't need to maneuver, where both drop the mask, where love is not submission or strategy, but mutual recognition, not of roles, but of souls. It's rare, it's hard, but it's real. And it starts when we stop pretending, when the man stops needing to idealize, when the woman stops needing to perform, when both accept the darkness and rise through it, not to purity, but to power, together. Nietzsche didn't write for comfort, he wrote for awakening. And in his writings on women, he wasn't trying to insult, he was trying to reveal. Because once you see through the lies, the illusions, the masks, we're left with something stronger than sentiment. We're left with the raw, terrifying, beautiful possibility of truth. If you're ready for that, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep asking the questions no one else dares to. Because clarity, real clarity, isn't soft, but it will set you free.